everybody. This is our second copy of a Norman Rockwell study. This one's called A Good Turn, and they're playing checkers, it looks like. It's a scouting series. Norman Rockwell did a series of prints celebrating the Boy Scouts of America, and there was a print released called A Good Turn, but it looks nothing like this one. It's a totally different theme, so I'm not sure. This seems like an idea that he scrapped. I think this is kind of a pun because it's like he's doing a good turn for this older, presumably lonely gentleman by playing the game, and but the guy is taking a turn in the game. So in the final print, he's just sort of hanging out with the guy. Let's locate the center of this just to have some idea of where Rockwell put the center, and he's put it right where the checker piece would be that the guy is moving. And because this is sort of a complex design, it might not be a bad idea for us to sketch the same size rectangle on our paper. I mean, the same proportions of rectangle, and mark the center of our rectangle. That's sort of like gridding it, but we're just doing a minimal amount of measuring just to find the center, and then we can build out from there. And don't go dark on this outline because we're not committed to that. When you're trying to draw a space with people in it, it's a really good idea to draw the furniture first that the people are sitting on. And this is an example of how you can create a compelling narrative design using really, really simple one-point perspective. So the tabletop is sort of like this. The implied vanishing point is sort of just a little bit below the eye level of the characters, I would say. So the implied vanishing point is right about here. And there's a square under the table, and then the base of the table comes down about 2/3 of the way towards the bottom of the frame. And, when drawing furniture, it doesn't mean drawing it in any detail. You see how simply that table is drawn, but it still suggests a support for the checkerboard. We're going to do the chairs next. So you'll see the bottoms of the chairs come down in our field of vision a little past the bottom of the table, which we would expect. And the bases of the chairs are essentially squares, with this square sort of intersecting the diagonal that we sketched in, like that. And this square is just a little bit higher up and smaller. See how his seat comes up a little bit above the level of his seat. So his chair is a little further from us. And this really has the feel of a study that was done from life. I can't swear to it, but it seems like he might have just hired these two people to sit and play the actual game for a while, and he may have watched them, and then when he saw a pose he liked, he sort of got them to lock into it. Here's the back of this chair. Is level with the shoulder of this guy, and let's see, it's about 1/3 of the way from the center of the picture to the top. maybe a little less than a third. So that puts us about here. And one of our goals is we want our drawings to be as loose and as kind of fluid as Rockwell's. So don't start gripping your pencil hard and throwing in a lot of details that you can't see. So I'm going to sketch this guy's rib cage. His rib cage ends just a few inches in front of the back of the chair, and his rib cage is fairly vertical, which makes it look like he's slightly hunched forward. Remember, rib cages in humans, when we're standing, rib cages tilt back like this. This is the normal position of a rib cage in a standing person. So when you see a rib cage like this one that is basically straight up and down, it gives the effect that he's slightly hunched over, if that makes any sense. So his pelvis is sort of compressed right in here, and the knee ends right under this square that we drew. And that's all the detail I'm going to do on the body right now, because I don't want to commit to anything until I have the head. Now, it's easier to make a composition with seated figures, but be aware that most people tend to make the head a little too big on a standing figure, and they tend to make the head a little too small on a seated figure. We would expect there to be about 4 heads from the top of his head to the seat, and we can count those. Probably be an intelligent thing to do. So there's 1 head. We're not counting the hair. Maybe a little higher for that one. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I would say maybe a little more than 4 heads to the chair. It's really pretty close to 4. So we can check that, make sure we got about 1. Second head gets us just below the armpit. Third head gets us right above the belt. And then the last head brings us down to the seat of the chair. It really seems like beginning artists, to me, just make every figure 6 heads tall, whether they are standing or seating. So the heads end up being too small in a seated pose. I'm sorry, too small in a seated pose and too big in a standing pose. Okay, and his head tilts forward a little bit. We all know what craniums look like. The ear becomes a really important sort of guiding detail to show us the angle of the head. And that's all we're going to do for that head right now. We're going to resist the temptation to do details until we make sure that everything kind of fits together. There's his arm stretching past the center of the picture, like that. And I'm going to throw my initial guidelines back in for this, help us with this other character. So notice, this is important. This guy's head is a little bit lower than the other guy's because he's the young Boy Scout. Little smaller. His head is tilted down more, so like he's paying closer attention to the game. if we go to the outside of this table and straight up, that's about where his ear ends up being. So check that relationship. Make sure that you're putting the ear around even with the outside of that table. And his rib cage is really tilted forward. It's not tilted back, or it's not vertical. It's actually tilted forward, and that's because he's actually, unlike the other figure, he's got his weight actually on the table. That table is supporting his weight. Can everyone feel that? Like, this guy's supporting his own weight. It's being carried entirely by the chair. This guy's weight is distributed between the chair and the table. And that's one of the reasons that it's really important to draw the furniture whenever you're confronted with a figure that's not carrying his own weight entirely, because drawing the furniture is you're always going to intuitively have a sense of how the figure's connecting their weight to the ground. And if you draw the furniture, you can make sense of that. If you don't have any furniture in your drawing, you can't. So there's his kind of arched back, his rib cage. We already established where his seat is. He's wearing shorts. His knee's almost touching the knee of the other guy. And then his leg is doubling sharply back like that. We're sort of working from photographs by default in this class, but one good reason to develop some speed in your draftsmanship is because you're going to get better results if you can sit and draw something like this from life, but you're not going to have models that are going to be willing to sit there forever. So you have to be a little bit speedy to make good use of an opportunity like this. And the problem with a photograph is it's just 1 millisecond of the scene. If people are actually sitting there, breathing, maybe moving around a little bit, you're going to notice useful little opportunities for things that you can put in your drawing that you would never see in a photograph. I did have a student, I've had a couple students who want to do self-portraits or portraits from photographs, and they want to overcome the kind of inherently static nature of working from a photograph, and they've, with my encouragement, they've worked from film loops, which is a really different experience. Like, you could actually make a video of these people playing checkers for a little while, and then just loop it like a 5 or 10 minute loop and draw from that. It would be a very different experience than just drawing from a single photograph. And now that everyone's phones have built-in movie cameras, that's something you could consider doing. So you'll notice I just blocked in this, this is like basically a kind of stove hood. It's probably a wood cooking stove. It's got this central chimney going right up the middle of the picture. And it has a chair rail that breaks right level with the center of this. This is like a tea or coffee pot. Probably coffee. And we're just going to block in where this is probably the most awkward thing in the drawing, is this hand is supposed to be holding a cup of coffee, I think, or something, but it's, we'll take a closer look at it in a minute, but it's a little awkward. And he's wearing kind of a, well, I'm not going to say what we call those shirts these days. Yeah, a T-top. No. It's a vest. No, we don't. That's a really unfortunate name. Okay, and we'll take a break in a minute. We're just going to block in the last elements, which are this guy's foot, which does not come down as far as the chair leg and just comes out as far as this central table post. The dog, which I just noticed for the first time, which is curled up under the chair. And this box. What is the box? Could be a, yeah, it could be like a little picnic basket that he brought to, he's keeping this old man company and bringing an apple, and see, there's the apple no one's eating. And the really sad part for me as a man of 63 years old is that this old guy that he's like taking pity on looks to be about like 10 years younger than me, but he really doesn't look that old in this picture. Yeah, it could be, this is an early study for the design and he never used it. It could have been, he could have had, remember in the diner shot, like he was using himself as the model for the soda jerk. He could have just put anyone in there, and he would have figured, I'll get an old model later. He did in the final painting. The guy that the scout is keeping company is very old, so yeah, I am making myself feel better. Thanks. Okay, so that is the block-in. All the main elements are there. And we're going to take a little break, and we'll be back in a minute. Okay, we're back, and we're going to take a look at some details now. And the lesson here is how a great artist conveys feeling with an incredible economy of means. Like, there's hardly any lines here, but you can read this guy's vibe, and that's what's amazing about it. Very few people can pull something like this off. So we could ask ourselves, one thing we should always ask ourselves on a head, if there's any doubt, is the eye in the middle of the head? And the answer is yes. So we find the middle, and we can pop that little dark beady eye right there. There's the bridge of the nose. There's the smile. And he's got a pretty strong chin. Almost looks like he might have a little beard or something, but I can't even tell. The nostrils sort of elongated. Okay, that's as close as I can get to my drawing. He's got a pretty strong brow ridge. You see that? And he's got a pretty strong fold at the outside of his mouth. One rookie mistake a lot of people make is they connect the corner of the mouth to this fold. You see how there's a space there? That's important. Don't bring the mouth all the way out to that fold. The hair is barely suggested, just with these sort of loopy, very calligraphic lines. The details of the ear are not drawn. The jaw is very severely indicated, giving him a slightly gaunt look. And that's all there is to it. And the reason we're studying a drawing like this, you need to know that great drawing does not mean putting in every detail. It means creating a believable atmosphere, believable emotion. It's like great acting. Believable gestures. And when you can do that with less work rather than more work, it's actually more impressive. So here's that awkward hand. I really don't know what's going on there. I don't know if maybe he's smoking a pipe. I don't even know what's. So we're not going to. Holding a ball of fire could be. Yeah, it's hard to read. So we're not going to get hung up on that. The top of the arm is not even outlined. We're going to use the side of our pencil like this and just do like that. And the bottom of the arm, the same thing. And here's the outline of his armless t-shirt. Reminds me of a time I was taking my wife out to her birthday, and I read a review in the Providence paper of a restaurant in Rhode Island called Twin Oaks. I think it's in Cranston. And the review said, it was such a classic old restaurant and that all the waiters had tuxedos, and it gave the impression that it was a pretty formal place. So we went there and we got kind of dressed up because I was expecting, I thought from the review it seemed like it probably had a dress code or something. And we both still laugh about it. Look, we got there and there was a sign on the door. It said, no muscle shirts. That was the dress code. So it wasn't that fancy. It's pretty good food, but. Okay, so this is the arm of the chair, and you see how it's looping around. It starts behind the guy's back, comes around, and it ends right under the corner of the table here. So we didn't do that in our first sketch. And it's supported by this vertical piece which goes down to the chair itself. These are the slats of wood of the chair seat. And we have to do this copy kind of fast because he obviously did the drawing really fast. And you can't really fake that look of speedy kind of gestural drawing. So rather than worry about getting everything perfect, we're going to focus on just trying to get a little bit of the same energy. And Yep. And that's really important, I think, because with realistic work like Rockwell's, there's always a danger that the drawings can end up being kind of stiff and dead. But if you start with a study like this that's just really energetic and lively, and I've done this, and then when you're working on your final piece, you just keep that study in your studio right next to the painting, and every time your painting starts to feel a little dead, you look back at that original study, and it sort of inspires you in the direction you need to go to re-inject that energy into the piece. So I just noticed this is actually a cane, so that's another indication of this gentleman's advanced age. No, I don't need a cane. Thank you, Olivia. That's one thing I got going for me. Yeah, I still walk without a cane. And we're going to go ahead and throw that dog in there. Look at that. It's like 3 lines for this dog. There's this line. There's the nose. It almost looks like the same dog from the last one we copied. Well, it probably is. One thing I'm always emphasizing with my ECE students is the importance of thinking of what you're doing as you're sort of like directing a show, like a movie or a play. And a lot of the work is finding costumes and props and like suitable backgrounds. And that's why some of the more successful solutions to the narrative drawing project end up being close to home, because if you're drawing people or painting people in the clothes that they already wear every day, and in the environments where you normally find yourself, then you have much less work to do. But Rockwell was interested in doing all kinds of themes of people from different walks of life, different professions and income brackets, and that were not close to home for him. And so he had a barn studio that was full of costumes and props that he collected over the years for these paintings. And in his late career, there was actually a tragic fire, and that whole barn burnt down, and he lost all his props and costumes, and it would prove to be a huge setback for him. So for those of you who still might think that having the right stuff to look at is not as important as just knowing how to draw and paint, that's sort of a good lesson. You can draw and paint really well, but you've got to put something in front of your eyes that is worth seeing in order to make something memorable. And that's why I collect so much stuff in my classroom. Okay, so there's the little picnic basket. There's his little scout hat maybe behind it. There's really not a lot to say about this. The location of this fold helps to emphasize the way his body is compressed, it's hunched over. And really nice little subtle detail here, but like see how his shorts are kind of too big for his leg. It makes his leg look kind of skinny, which emphasizes his youthful appearance. The fascinating thing is just how much of the story he's able to tell with this level of detail. And because he's hunched over, there's a little bit of fullness right here, and the abdomen is compressed outward. And this full direction helps show the way his body's doubled forward. And there's his little scouting kerchief. They still wear those, don't they? Yeah, and they go around the back like that? What is that even? Is that? It's almost like a little tiny cape or something. So again, I'm going to keep saying this, but what I'm looking for here is just try to show a little bit of this line quality. I'm not going to be focusing as much on looking for perfect proportions. I really want you to see if you can get just a little bit of the spirit of this drawing into your work, and then next time you have to do a study for a narrative piece, try to recall how this felt. Okay, now we're going to get into this other portrait. And it's really important that you get the angle of the head right so double check that before you get in there. See, this head's going back this way, the line of his face is going this way. There's his jawline. There's the eye line. So make sure you're angled enough. His eye line is slightly above center on his head. We already measured the placement of the ear, so that should be good. And here's his eyebrow. He's got much less of a developed brow ridge, and he's got a much smaller nose. Those are things that make him look more boyish than his partner here. He's got a kind of pointy little chin. Something like that. I made his ear a little too big. His face is actually a little less believable than the other guy's face in Rockwell's drawing, I think, and in mine. And here's this seems to be like the coffee pot. And we can use the vanishing point that we found to draw a little bit of the checkerboard. And we're almost done. So in this background where it really doesn't matter, I want to see everyone attempt to really use these kind of scribbly lines. Like, I don't even know what these things are. So you can't really screw it up. But I really want to see everyone like try to imitate that line quality a little bit just to see what it feels like. If you ever take a real college drawing class, they're going to give you a lot of 1-minute poses and 2-minute poses with live models, and the teacher's entire job is going to be walking around the room and saying, loosen up, you're so tight. Come on, loosen up. Let's see you. That's really what they do. It's so frustrating.
Go down to the office because you have someone else's Chromebook and they have yours. What? I think. Double check. I think that's what Ms. Bicklow just said.
Oh wait, I might have left it in Woodshop.
I'm pretty sure she said so-and-so.
Okay, I'm going to zoom out one last time. Oh, I was covering up the dog the whole time, wasn't I? Sorry about that. Yeah, only for the people at home. So, sorry about that. There's the little dog. And yeah, I guess that'll do it for our video today. Thanks for watching. We're getting close to 1,000 subscribers out there, so please sub. Yeah, tell some of your friends about these tutorials, and let's get over 1,000 subscribers. Okay, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.